Joining us now, we've got Tom Hayes, Chairman and Managing Member, Great Hill Capital. Tom, it is great to have you with us. Always love getting your insight. Let's talk big picture here. So we had a lot of volatility last week. This feels like a little bit more normalcy now, or at least trying to kind of figure out how do we get back to normal. You pointed out that this is the first correction where seasoned pros seem more fearful than retail investors. I'm surprised to hear that, but how did you arrive at that assessment?
Yeah, well, incoming phone calls. I mean, I have peers in the business that were calling me in literally abject fear, and me kind of walking them off the ledge and saying, this too shall pass. You know, if you look at the data, retail investors have actually been buying in the hole on this correction, and hedge funds have had record selling in the hole. And what's interesting about that, most people say, well, the dumb money, smart money. Let me tell you something. The retail investors have been right since COVID. They have been buying weakness while professionals have been selling weakness, and the retail investors have been correct. And I think this is going to be the case again.
But was some of that fear warranted? I'm not saying one should feed into fear, but like when we saw that volatility last week, obviously we've cooled since then on volatility. When we look at the VIX, it's not at those historic levels that we saw. But, you know, when you're in this daily, you've experienced that turbulence before, it does kind of triggers a memory that wasn't great.
That's right. That's right. Look, the administration has to learn to take yes for an answer. Okay, they have deals on the table, or as Kevin Hassett would say, bundles of deals on the table. And all they need, what you need to see is one credible deal roll across the tape, and then the market will realize there's some rationality in the administration. They're going to move ahead. Things are going to be okay. We're just in the period of uncertainty, and the way that you get through that is you focus on what you can control. And all you can control is buying high quality businesses when they're on sale. I learned very early in the business, good things happen to people who buy high quality assets when they're marked down. And you know, irrespective of how long it takes to get a deal, if it takes, so here's two analogs. Trump 1.0 in 2018, trade war. Market corrected 20%. It recovered V-shape within 4 months to new highs. Could that happen? That's a possibility. We're slightly more in the camp. It's going to be like the 2011 European debt crisis, where you had a 20% correction.
I remember that,
and then 3 months of hell, nonstop volatility, and then 8 months later you were at new highs.
Really quickly, I know you've got a couple of picks, but I want to ask you that point about volatility. Although we're not at that level that we saw last week, which reminded people, us included, of the GFC. Is volatility here to stay, or at least during this presidential term?
Well, the history of President Trump is volatility followed by upside resolution. And that's his formula. He knows how to push it to the edge and then break through, and the market resolves higher. So I think you just have to, on a company by company basis, buy quality that you don't have to worry about, not speculative stocks. And we're going to find we'll wake up one morning and he says, I just spoke to my good friend Xi Jinping, and the market's up 5,000 points.
I know, he does call him his good friend. I mean, it's an interesting characterization there. But, okay, let's talk about your picks, especially given your views on how you want to buy things where you see opportunity, potential sale. CRK is on your list, Comstock Resources. Now, you picked this a year ago, or a little more than a year ago, right? It's been a winner since then, up more than 100%. Why are you still bullish? Where do you see it going?
I think part of the tariff negotiations is, particularly with Europe, is going to be, you want a reduction in tariffs, you need to take all of our LNG. Okay, they need our LNG. We have it in abundance. They need to take it, and they're going to want to do that deal. Comstock Resources, 70% owned by Jerry Jones, who owns the Cowboys. The proved reserves that they report to the SEC, which is 10 years of drilling, are worth about $8 billion. The enterprise value is around $8 billion. However, their unproved reserves, which they do not report, is another 15 years of drilling. Okay, so we think that's worth about $10 billion, which means we think not only it doubled since we talked about it, we think it can double one more time over the next 12 to 24 months.
Is there still a push for LNG given the Trump administration's not the same focus on converting to more I'm trying to find the word to how you care. I mean, it's considered a better for the environment.
That's a good question. You mean he'd prefer coal?
Yeah.
Well, look, you can't make it up. I think he wants everything, and we're going to need everything to power the data centers, to power the increased demand, whether it's EVs, whether it's data centers.
Okay.
Unlimited demand and globally unlimited demand. So that's a great way to play it.
Okay, your next ticker, QXO. Now, look, that's a different pick than this in terms of its performance.
Yeah.
I mean, with Comstock Resources, that's outperformed the S&P 500 this day. But QXO, this seems like a little bit of a where does it go?
Yeah, this is a relatively new position for us. This is Brad Jacobs. Brad Jacobs is a winner. He makes money for shareholders. If you had invested $1 million with him when he started United Rentals in 1997 when he got involved, you're up 70 some odd X, 74X, $74 million. If you did XPO Logistics in 2009, he came in, he put $150 million of his own money, bought stock, you're up 160%. 1 million became 160 million. Now he's doing a roll up, same formula, different industry in building products. You got 75 million millennials, 34. They want to buy houses, they can't afford them.
Yeah.
So Besant's going to deregulate banks, bring down treasury yields below 4%. Okay,
That's
hopefully the good way, not through a recession, but the good way. That will make housing affordable. And Trump is opening, we've got 500 million acres of federal land. He's opening that up to build all these starter homes. So KB Homes will build your starter home. You get an endangered elk free of charge in your backyard. And Brad Jacobs is going to provide all of the building supplies. He's going to do a roll-up. He's going to add technology. He started with Beacon roofing supply. When your roof is leaking, it's a non-discretionary expense. You don't think about, should we buy a new roof?
You have to.
You have to buy a new roof.
I mean, you can patch it, but yeah.
So the history of Brad Jacobs is you put money in, you don't think about it for 5 to 10 years.
Okay.
And this will be 5, 6, 7 bagger at the least. And if history is any prologue, it'll be a lot more than that.
Okay, potentially a 10 bagger.
I think so. Yeah, I'd always bet on Brad Jacobs.
Okay,
he
this
is serious.
Bet on Brad
Look,
Jacobs.
he wrote a book, How to Make a Few $billion. That's pretty useful because he actually made a few $1 billion.
Okay, all right. Great way to end that. Thank you. That's Tom Hayes, Great Hill Capital. He's the chairman and managing member over there.